I want to echo Bishop Fobb's words of welcome tonight by just thanking you for being here tonight. I echo his excitement and his anticipation for where the Holy Spirit might lead us tonight, and just want to say welcome to the Pastoral Center as we kind of continue to get settled. Hopefully you are aware of the geography of the building. If you need the restrooms, they're outside. If you need some food, it's over here to your left. If you have no idea what's going to happen tonight, just ask the person on the side of you. They should be able to help you out at some point tonight. That's right. If you have extra money, St. Joseph's and Chauvin can use it. Yeah, Galliano, that's right. We got about 150 of us here tonight from all over the diocese. We're pretty excited about that, pretty fired up about that. As Bishop said, we have 3 commissions who are going to be working tonight in some form or fashion. Some of you are here because you're committed to parish life. Some of you are here because you're interested in formation, which will eventually focus on adults and young adults, and some of us are here for youth. So however you got here tonight and wherever your passion lies, I just want to say welcome. If you notice, there's a lot of people here tonight. It's because we have these 3 beautiful teams who are going to be with us. And as we gather tonight, I just want to acknowledge that some of us are really familiar with this whole process. Perhaps you've seen some presentation already. Maybe you've been to the website. Maybe you were able to glance through the 375 attachments to the email that we put your way. Maybe you're very ready. And if that's where you are tonight, I just want to say it's great to have you. Some of us were invited. There's a topic that really interests you, and you're passionate about that topic. You might have some questions about where we're going tonight in the process, and if that's where you are, I just want to say welcome. It's great to have you. Some of you were voluntold by your pastor, and you have no idea what you're getting into, and I just want to say welcome to the Catholic Church. We are experts in doing that. So wherever you are tonight, I just want to say welcome. It's great to have you. Just to kind of help you settle with where we're going tonight, our structure's in 2 parts. The first part will be here in large group. We'll have some presentation, some conversation, and most importantly, some prayer together tonight, just asking God, what is He putting on our hearts and where is He leading us? The second part will break into the actual commissions that you either signed up for or were signed up for, where we're going to just walk through some expectations, the big picture of the process, some things that we can do in preparation for our next meeting, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to say welcome for being here with us tonight. It's going to be a great night. I've been to a lot of meetings where people start and say, hey, my name's Mark and I'm a recovering. So my name is Mark and I'm a recovering church meeting attendee. I've been to lots of church meetings, and I'm not quite sure about you, but in all of the meetings that I've been to in my life, I want to explain to you what my experience of either meetings like this or meetings that are smaller than this feel like in my heart. Oftentimes there's an unclear purpose. We gathered for the meeting. There's an agenda to some degree, but we're a little unclear on the purpose of the meeting and how it fits into the big picture. There's usually lots of conversation. A percentage of that is relevant, and a lot of it is just kind of spinning around. There's a handoff from the meeting. In other words, we leave the meeting, and it's handed off to somebody. Then there's restricted empowerment. The people who are at the meeting don't necessarily have the full authority to implement what we talked about in the meeting, which means that there's minimal ownership of the people who go to the meeting and who exercised all of their ideas and gave generously of their time. Oftentimes there's inadequate resources to execute what we dreamed of at the meeting, which means we just get it done and there's minimal impact. Now that's what my experience of church meetings is like. For the rest of you who have never experienced that, I just want to say welcome to my world, all right? None of us know what this is like, right? None of us have ever been a part of meetings like this, and you walk out and you're probably walking in tonight saying to yourself, well, Father Mark, how is tonight not going to be different? How is it going to be different? Well, it's not. We just need you to endure it with us tonight, all right? So it's got to be different because things just have to be different. Some of you, as you're walking in, may be very familiar with this thing called strategic planning and Bishop's desire in his heart. And some of you literally may be walking in kind of cold. And so we want to just say welcome. It's great to have you. And we want to explain to you very quickly, why is it that we need something different? Not just in a meeting structure, but why is it that we need something different in our hearts? And why is it that we need something different in the diocese? So a quick story. Some of you know the story. If you know the story, you can intercede for the rest of us. But here's why we need something different. 39 years ago, March 2nd, 1977, we were conceived and born June 5th, 1977, in this beautiful area of Cajun country, which came right out of God's heart. At that time, we had 132,000 Catholics in our diocese that we reported to the Holy See, almost 198,000 total people. That gave us a 67% percentage of Catholics in the Diocese of Houma-Thibodaux. Now, some of you might look at that and say, 39 years ago, I thought that would have been higher. But that's what we reported to the Holy See. That's where we were 39 years ago when we were founded. 1977, 132,000 Catholics, 67% Catholic. Now, very quickly, here we go. That's the last 39 years. And I want you to watch in your own heart the progression of, we're doing the best that we possibly can with a lot of church meetings that I just described to you, with a beautiful people and an awesome presbyterate and an awesome faith. But in the last 39 years, at the end of last year, with 237,000 people in the area, registering 114,000 Catholics, we are now 48% Catholic. A little show of hands of who is seeing this statistic for the first time tonight. Anybody seeing this for the first time? Okay. I want to give you 30 seconds in silence right now, and I want you to just absorb that. For those of you who have seen it before, I want you to just, in silence, just pay attention to your hearts. Pay attention. What stirs within when we can no longer say we're Catholic? Just pay attention. When we can no longer say that we have a Catholic diocese. Nobody's fault. People are doing the best they possibly can. Parishes are doing the best they possibly can. Okay? But here's the reality of where we are, and there is a call for something different, not because different is the fad, because we want to respond to what God's calling us to do. Church is growing. The fastest growing church in our diocese is up the road. Fastest growing church in our diocese are those who have left the Catholic Church for other churches. 52% in non-denominational churches are ex-Catholics. That's a national statistic, but it's probably one that it very much represents the phenomena, or the trend that we see in the last 39 years, even in our own diocese. Quick spin through the mass statistics. Some of you have seen this, some of you haven't, just so that everybody's on the same page with us tonight. We take mass attendance every October, Lent. We take those two figures together. 2015, 24,000 people were at Mass on Sunday. 21% of Catholics went to Mass. National statistics would tell us that 16% of Catholics go to Mass every Sunday, where 21% of Catholics would go to Mass at some point on Sunday. That means that 10% of the total population is with us on the weekends, which means that we evangelize 10% of the total population. Now, here's my assumption. My assumption is that if, and this is a sweeping assumption, I'm open to challenge. However, if a person's not going to go to Mass on Sunday, they're probably not planning the size of the family around Catholic social teaching. If they're not going to Mass on Sunday, then they're probably struggling with other tenets of the faith. So if we only evangelize 10% of the population, 90% of the people in this area consider us irrelevant. I want us to feel that. Because I think we have an awesome faith. And I think we have great people. And I think we have an opportunity, because God has given us a mission to share those truths with people. And I'm excited tonight about inviting you into a solution so that we can help people know Jesus Christ and that we can help people experience the sacraments. Especially our young people, 90% by their 21st birthday no longer go to Mass. And of course that includes our Catholic school students. People doing the best they possibly can. A lot of us asking questions. A lot of us here tonight because you want youth to thrive. Some of us are actually teens ourselves, and you know what it's like here. But we've got to do something different because we've been given a mission by God in order for us to celebrate the gift that He's given us. So let's put things into context tonight. Number one, those are people, not numbers. Those are human beings. Those are souls, not statistics. That's my family on that board, maybe your family. Number 5 is 6. 2 of us go to Mass every Sunday. The other 4 are on their own journey. I understand that those are human beings, that sometimes the people that are in those statistics are people that we love and that are near and dear to us. And there's lots of reasons for the trend. There's no silver bullet. There's no one thing that happened. We can't blame everything on the fairs. We can't blame everything on Northerners moving into our diocese. There's lots of reasons why those trends are there. And there are lots of places in the country that are experiencing the same thing that we're experiencing. So, no, we're not the only people who are having this conversation, and we're not the only diocese that has brought people together to come up with solutions. So some people will say, well, Father Mark, it's happening everywhere, or you might be just chasing numbers. And I would remind us that those are real human beings there. And we have been given a mission by Jesus Christ himself to evangelize and to invite them into something greater than what they have. Let's take a look at something a little deeper as we put things into context for us tonight. Every given weekend when we go to Mass, there's a spectrum of engagement of people who are at Mass. Say you go to church on Sunday, there's 1,000 people in the church. There's going to be people all over the place. They're all going to be in different places in their spiritual life and their level of engagement. Some people are red hot for God. They're maximally engaged. They're studying on their own. They're praying on their own. They're serving people on their own. And they are confident in their ability to hear God prompting them to evangelize other people. Some people are searching for more. Some people, when they go to Mass on Sunday, the people that you and I know, the people that we love, they're just searching for more. Some are ready to go deeper. And those people who are ready to go deeper are expecting you and I to teach them. They came to us because they expected us to have a blueprint to help them go deeper. They wanted more. God knocked on their heart, and they said the Catholic Church is the expert of helping people go deeper in their relationship with Him and to be formed as disciples, and they're expecting us to teach them how to do that. And some people just kind of come and go. They come to Mass, and they go. Every given Sunday, our Catholic congregations, our parishes, our teens, the people that we want to form together, they're all over the place here. Some maximally engaged, some are just going to come and go. So the question is, how are we doing? Now I say that because I'm just a couple months out of being a pastor myself. I'm a priest for 15 years. I love Jesus Christ. I love our diocese. I love our parishes. The question is, how are we doing? Are Catholics engaged? Now, of course, we know we've lost nearly 20 percentage points than what we had 39 years ago. But the ones we have are the Catholics who are with us engaged. National statistic here from the Dynamic Catholic Institute, 7% of registered parishioners contribute 80% of the volunteer hours. 7%. 7% of registered parishioners donate 80% of the revenue. 7%. How are we doing? That's how we're doing. We are engaging 7% of the people on a maximal level. Do we need to do something different? Yes. Do we need to do something different just for the sake of change? No. We need to do something different because we have been given a mission by Jesus Christ. And if the best that we can possibly do is 7%, then that's okay. But the question is, are we doing the best that we possibly can in today's world with the resources that we have and all the beautiful people who are here in this room? 7%. So the question is, why is it that 93% of our people are disengaged? They're relatively disengaged. They come and go. They don't come. They're searching. They come and they don't know how to go deeper. Or they come to us at key moments in their life, hungry for more, hungry for direction. And we either do a really good job of ministering to them or that door's open and they come and they leave. 93% of our people remain relatively disengaged from all of our efforts. And those are human beings, and what we see in people, we often see in parishes. So some of us are here tonight because you want to talk about a different parish model. Some of us are here tonight because the youth ministry that you want to see thrive is going to happen in a parish. And some of us are here because you're interested in forming adults and young adults, and that's going to probably happen in parishes. What we see in the numbers is going to probably be reflected in what we see in parish life. But let me say, every parish is working hard. Every one of our parishes is doing the best that they possibly can. Every parish is busy. I was at a parish just a couple months ago. We're busy. Every one of my priests who are here, I understand you're busy. Our parishes are busy. My question is, if busy equals successful, why is it that we've lost 20% in almost 40 years? If busy equals successful, why is it that 93% of our people who see as busy and who are affected by busyness are relatively disengaged? The question is not, are we busy? The question is, are we busy about the right things? It's a question that we want to present to all of us tonight so that as we get busy about researching ways that we can effectively minister in parishes or researching ways that we can form disciples, are we going to be busy about the right thing? Here's my experience as a pastor. My experience as a pastor, priest for 15 years, pastor 2 parishes, my experience of parish life is that every one of us wants to do something. Every priest wakes up, his desires to evangelize. You're here tonight because you want to do something. We see needs. We see people's hearts. And we know that we need to do something. Now, I'm going to pick on me, okay? I'm going to laugh a little bit with you here, but this is a typical response, not from your parish and not from you, but from other parishes in other dioceses, okay? We got to do something, so let's come up with a mission statement. Not just a mission statement, how about a vision statement? And core values. Can everybody go, oh. This is a typical mission statement. You ready? Here we go. This is what we need to do to evangelize the other 93%. You ready? St. Mark's Catholic Church is a welcoming community in Christian tradition, yet a Catholic in origin, living on the banks of Bayou Country, committed to reaching out to those who are searching, as well as the lonely, the needy, the poor, the marginalized, those who use the cry room, those who don't. The young and the old, the hot and the cold, the liberal left, the conservative right, the left-handed, the right-handed, so that through ancient liturgy alive in today's audience, drawing Catholics into the portals of the Holy of Holies, coupled with dynamic preaching designed to fire you into speaking in tongues. We can change lives, change the city, change the church, change the world, and building the kingdom of God in our midst, illuminating the NFC South and crawfish boils on Good Friday. Woo! Raise your hand if you've been at a church meeting that came up with something like that, huh? We've all been there. Pastoral council, we're going to make a mission statement this year. And you said, oh my God. If your pastor says, let's come up with a mission statement, run. All right? I've said this often at pastoral council meetings when it comes to mission statements. If we have to make statements to explain our statements, then our statements aren't making statements. Amen? So we all desire something. We want to do something. We see needs in people. We all ask the same question, how? That keeps me up at night as a priest. It haunts me sometimes. How do we evangelize? It becomes a burden. We see teens and they no longer come to church. We see parents drop off their kids on CCD night and they don't come to church. We see people, we feel the burden of how do I get my brother back in church? How do we get my daughter back in church? How do I get my grandson to believe in the sacraments again? We know that we need to do something. So again, with great love, let me just say, my experience in parish life is this, that we grasp at the latest thing. Because in reality, when the chips are down, if we really want to be critically honest with ourselves, we know we need to do something, but we don't always know what to do. So we grasp at the latest thing. Robert Barron came out with the Catholicism series. Everybody bought Catholicism series, right? We all had classes in our parish. We all watched the DVDs. We didn't know where we were going after, but everybody watched those DVDs, right? They were awesome. So then the Augustine Institute came out with Symbolon. That's awesome because they had more DVDs we could watch, right? And you could watch it at home, on your smartphone, when you were driving, right? After we came out with that, Matthew Kelly's got a new book. And he sold 1 million copies. So we grasp at the latest thing in parish life, don't we? Right? priests talk about it at deanery meetings, and we're talking to our best friends about it, and you went to somebody else's parish, and they got a book, and you want to know why our parish doesn't have the book, right? The question is, where are you going with the book? What's the purpose of the book? In other words, what do we want to happen in people because of the latest thing that we were grasping at? What are we going to do when it's over? How are we leading people somewhere or to someone? Because the answer, and I want to apologize for doing this a lot of times, and I'll critique parish life. This is the answer. Get involved. In what? Why am I getting involved? How is it going to sustain the movement that God put in my heart? Parishioner Bob comes to my office, and Bob says, Father, I need help with an annulment. And I say, hey, Knights of Columbus, get involved. Father, my Cursillo was awesome. You want to be a Eucharistic minister? Is that proven to sustain the spiritual growth that once started in their hearts? That's a great question for us. Great quote on a line of many places that I've been. It says, those who are ignorant to history are bound to repeat it. If we don't start asking different questions, and if we just keep doing the same thing over and over, guess what's going to keep happening? The same thing over and over. It seems like as if the litmus test for a mature Catholic is the amount of ministry that we're involved in. Now look, priests, we try to outdo each other all the time. I go to a meeting in Omaha, Nebraska. Hey, how you doing? Good, man. We have 20 ministries. I'm like, really? We have 21. Somebody else comes in, I got 24. I started 5 that night just so I could go back to him the next day and say, we got 30, right? As if the amount of busy, frenetic activity on a campus of a parish is yielding the impact on 93% of people who remain relatively unengaged. So, my question for us tonight is this. Are we absolutely certain that what we're doing is going to work? 7% of Catholics are maximally engaged. 7% of Catholics are cranking out 80% of the volunteer hours. 7% of Catholics are tithing 80% of the time. Are we absolutely certain that what we're doing now is going to affect the other 93%? If that's working in your parish, praise God, we want to hear from you. Let me tell you what else happens. People can go to a parish for a priest. Now, this doesn't happen in your parish, all right? It happens in other parishes and in other dioceses. Or they don't go to the parish because of a priest, right? So people come because they want a homily, or people are dependent upon who's preaching the homily. Priest A is over there, Father A is doing good. Now, here's the thing that startles me as a priest, this moment right here. Your priest gets a new assignment. Now, there is grief in the heart of Jesus Christ when Catholics in a pew freak out when their priest leaves because you don't know who's coming next. There's only one response in the heart of Jesus Christ, and that is grief. That a Catholic's experience is dependent upon 12 minutes in a homily, or 35 for me, all right? Okay. Don't laugh. Priest B gets there, and things might change. Now, there's grief in the heart of me as a priest when I hear parishioners say they left the parish because of the new pastor. Let me tell you something right now. If the vibrancy of evangelization in our Catholic Church is dependent upon Father and his homily, we were in trouble a long time ago. We need to do something different. And I hope that that's why you're here. Because we need you to help us come up with some solutions so that we can move forward together. Now imagine 7% cranking out 80% of the tithing, 7% cranking out 80% of the volunteers' hour. Imagine if we went from 7 to 8. You might say, well, it's 1%. No, it's not. What if we went from 7 to 10 or 12 or 14? What if we doubled the amount of volunteer hours in parish life? What if we doubled the amount of tithing in parishes within the next 5 years? In other words, my invitation for us tonight, imagine the impact on the people, imagine the impact on ministry, on finances, imagine the impact in our parishes and our dioceses. Imagine with me tonight if we together in this process were able to lean into God, let Him guide us tonight as we pray, as we discern over the next several months, if we bowed before the presence of God, who's already got the solution, who has a burning in His heart for those 93%, and who already has a plan for us if we can receive it. Imagine with me if God wanted to do more in your parish. Would you want that? Now here's the bad news. 93% of our parishioners are relatively disengaged. That's the bad news. And we need to be honest about the bad news. Why? There's lots of reasons. Some of it's because we make stupid mistakes. Some of it you've seen on the news. Some of it is because of the scandal. Some of it's just because our secretaries are rude. And if there's any secretaries here and you're rude, yes, I'm talking about you. Ring, ring. St. Mark's Catholic Church. Yes, I've been away for the church for 20 years. Can I see Father for confession? No. Okay. That's why I wasn't there for 20 years. Some of it is our mistakes. Some of it's because of the secularization of our culture. Culture's changing, times are changing, people are changing with the times. One of my favorite lines in the movie The American President says that when people are thirsty enough in the desert, they'll drink the sand when they see a mirage. And y'all, there's mirages all over the place. And people are seduced by all those mirages, and I believe that we have never in history have had a moment where we can evangelize right now where people are as thirsty as they are right now. So yes, it may be bad news that we're only engaging 7% of the population, of the Catholic population, but y'all folks are ready. Folks are ready to come to parishes and to be taken deeper. Teens are ready to be mentored and to be shown the fullness of the sacraments in the church. Our adults are ready to be formed. They're hungry. They're starving. They want more. So while there may be bad news that we have to admit, here's the good news. The good news is we don't really have to figure out how to get 93% of the population engaged with us again. And we don't have to go out and get all those Catholics who have left us. We don't have to do that. That's the good news. What we have to do is this. Meet people in their thirst. Meet people in their hunger. 7% of Catholics are maximally engaged, right? I'm going to make a bet with you right now. In your parish, wherever it is, there's at least another 7 right on top of them who want more. And they're going to knock on our door. They're going to come to that parish mission. They're going to show up for the adult ed night. They're going to come to your youth group. There's 7% who want more and who are going to look to the church to help them go deeper. And God bless us if our answer for these 7% who want more is become a Eucharistic minister, then I'm not quite sure if that and that alone is going to be the answer that helps them go deeper. So the question is how? How do we do this? Well, there's lots of ways to do this. However, if conversion, maturing in the spiritual life is going to happen, it has to happen in community. We're not islands. I'd be willing to make a bet with you now. You tell me anybody who's had an awakening in their life and tried to sustain that awakening by themselves, eventually they will atrophy in their spiritual life because it's difficult to sustain conversion. And that most naturally happens in parishes, which is why we're here. And some of those people are going to be younger, which is why you're here. And some of those people are going to be older, and that's why you're here. But we're here to help our parishes succeed. We want you to be part of a solution. We're going to work together, the priest as well as the lady. Succeed in what? In stimulating growth, in sustaining spiritual growth. And that goes back to how. How do we do that? Well, that's why you came. You came in some way because God is asking you to help us figure out how to do this, to come up with solutions. You said, Father Mark, let's do something. And it would be real easy for us to start off our first meeting and say, let's go do something. And I think if we did that, we would probably replicate the same mistakes that we've made at other meetings like this in the past. So we've modified the agenda tonight, if you haven't kind of figured that out already. Because as we prayed and listened to God, He was asking us to pray tonight and to listen to Him, which we'll do in a couple seconds. You're here because you want to help your parish. You want to help our youth. You want to help those in formation. That's what brought you here. You want to do something. Well, how do we do that? Well, how we do something is dependent upon what you want. Let me say that again. How we do something is dependent upon what we want to do. The how is the process. How are we going to do this? But the what is the purpose. How we do something is dependent upon what we want to do. The process is dependent upon the purpose. The question for us tonight is, what's the purpose of a parish? What's the purpose of formation? What's the purpose of our youth ministry? We talk a lot about this, and I think a lot of us probably want to roll up our sleeves and get creative with the next Matthew Kelly book. We want to get a hold of the next DVD series. We want to go research the next parish retreat. A lot of us think that this is where the action is, when in reality, I think it's important for us to go here first, because if we don't get clear here, we're probably going to spin our wheels here if we're going to engage people and help them. So what's the purpose of the parish? What's the purpose of youth ministry? What's the purpose of our formation? If we ask those questions, then I think we'll be more successful, and we know what to listen to when we listen to God. What do we want to accomplish? Because I'm a recovering church meeting attendee. And my experience is that there's an unclear purpose at all those meetings. And I don't want this one to be the same. I don't want this process to be the same. And let me just be honest with you. I know that some of you who came here tonight came because somebody twisted your arm, and you might be saying, Father Mark, you got one night to see if I'm coming back. Because you know what this fatigue's like. You know what it's like to pour all your energy and have minimal impact in your parish or in your ministry or in your lives. And the question is, what if this could be different? What if you could be part of something different? What if God could call us to something more? And what if God could show us how we could really make an impact in people's lives? If that's going to happen, God needs to show us. And I'm reminded of Acts of the Apostles chapter 5. This historic moment in the history of the church where something really important for us to lean into happens. The high priest rose up, and all his companions, that is, the party of the Sadducees, and filled with jealousy, laid their hands on the apostles and put them in the jail. When they had brought them in, made them stand before the Sanhedrin, the high priest questioned them. And he says, we gave you strict orders, did we not, to stop teaching in that name? Yet you have filled Jerusalem with your teaching, and you want to bring this man's blood upon us. But Peter said, we must obey God rather than men. And when they heard this, they were ready to put them to death until a Pharisee, a teacher of the law, respected by all the people, stood up, ordered the men to be put outside, and then said to them, fellow Israelites, be careful of what you are about to do to these men. For this endeavor is of human origin. It will destroy itself. But if it comes from God, you will not be able to destroy them. You may even find yourselves fighting against God. If it comes from God, you will not be able to destroy it. If it comes from God. Tonight, God needs to show us together, what can we do? It's got to come from God. I believe that God wants to speak to us, and I think God wants to speak to us right now. So it might seem a little long to you, but we're going to give you 4 minutes of complete silence right now. I just want you to pay attention to your heart. So I want you to listen to what God might be saying to you. Questions for us tonight. What does God want for us? What does God want for the church? And what does the church want for us, for our parishes, for formation, for our youth? What's the mission? Well, it's all over the church. It's been there for 2,000 years. Came right out of Christ in Matthew 28 and has kind of resounded like this beautiful song that's been singing to us for 2,000 years, especially in most recent memory from the Second Vatican Council, Pope Paul VI in 1975, John Paul the Great, 1990, our U.S. bishops, as well as our Holy Father. They have all written and they have spoken to us about the mission. Now, we're not going to read all these documents tonight, but we do expect you to have them memorized for the next time that we get together. Just kidding. What's the mission? Matthew 28:19, go therefore and make disciples. Now, I was picking on mission statements. Your parish can have one. First pastoral council meeting ever, Jesus Christ said, that's what I want you to do. That's the mission, to make disciples. To make disciples, that's the what. That's what we want to do. That's our purpose, to make disciples. Scriptures reminds us that if it comes from God, if that's the mission that God has given to us, to make disciples, if that's the what, if that's what we want to do, if that's what we want our parishes to be designed for, if that's our purpose, God has asked our parishes to make disciples. He's asked everything that we're about here in youth ministry to make disciples. He's asked our adult formation to be designed to making disciples. Now you might say to yourself, well, Father Mark, there's more than that. If we properly understand what this word means, then we will see how the church is actually revealing to us in the way that we are formed and the way that we live, that it actually does contain and touch all aspects of the church. So you're here tonight with probably two natural questions at this stage of the conversation. You might say, well, how, what and how? If we're supposed to be making disciples, how do we do that? How is it that we can go about and live in the mission? But a better question for us is not how do we make disciples, but what is a disciple? And what's a mature disciple? How do you make a gumbo? Well, you got to figure out what a gumbo is. You're going to be seafood or chicken and sausage, and please don't ever put seafood with the chicken and sausage, please. All right? You got to figure out what you want before you come up with the process for it. All right? What's a mature disciple? Because that question is going to drive how it is that we craft youth ministry in the year 2016 and how we craft adult formation and how we allow our parishes to have structures that help us form people into a mature disciple. And believe it or not, all these documents from the church in some way speak to us about that. But our Holy Father, Pope Francis, has most recently given us the most clear and succinct in his document, Joy of the Gospel. He says, I am aware that nowadays documents do not arouse the same interest as in the past and that they're quickly forgotten. He says, nevertheless, I want to emphasize that what I'm trying to express here has programmatic significance and important consequences. He says, I hope communities will devote the necessary effort in advancing along the path of pastoral and missionary conversion, which cannot leave things as they presently are. The Holy Father saying, we got to do something different. We got to gather together. Got to put our heads together. Got to do a little research. Got to do something different. Can't leave things as they presently are. Again, just 60 seconds in silence right now. Just want you to pay attention to your heart. What's God saying to you right now when our shepherd tells us that? Just ask God to speak to your heart. He continues, mere administration could no longer be enough. Throughout the world, let us be permanently in a state of mission. Right there. Mere administration can no longer be enough. if we are more excited about the fact that we filled, finally, the number of teachers that we have in CCD than the kids that we were trying to transform in CCD, he is saying mere administration can't be enough. So again, just look at that. Just pay attention to your heart. Could be emotions that pop up, desires that pop up. He says the parish is not an outdated institution. This is all the baptized, whatever their position in the church or the level of instruction in the faith, are agents of evangelization. Look at that. Holy Father has just removed the seduction and the Catholic imagination that I don't have to evangelize. All of us. It would be insufficient for us to have an evangelization committee in a parish as if they are the ones who evangelize. It would be insufficient for us to have a plan of evangelization to be carried out by professionals while the rest of us simply are passive recipients. The new evangelization calls for a personal involvement on the part of the other 93%. Every Christian is challenged to be actively engaged in evangelization. Just look at that statement for a second. I want you to just listen to your heart. What is God saying to you right now about you? Every Christian is a missionary to the extent that he or she has encountered the love of God. We can no longer say that we are disciples and missionaries, but rather that we are always missionary disciples. And we're going to unpack this since it comes from the Holy Father. We're going to unpack this a little bit tonight as we pray and listen to what God is saying to us about that, about a missionary disciple. Just a little help here. What is the Holy Father saying? Well, the word disciple, in essence, as we unpack this together, describes what has happened to us. The word missionary refers to how we live. I have been discipled. I've met Jesus Christ. I've experienced a conversion in my life. And now I desire to live in the mission. I want a way of life, a rule of life, you might say. Now just imagine if the parish itself, made it easy for people to experience something dramatic in their life and to live that out. Imagine what it would look like if our youth ministry were designed intentionally, creatively around helping our young people experience something profound in their life and then live that out. Imagine if all of our formation efforts were designed to do that. Imagine what that would look like. This comes from our shepherd, Bishop Fobb. He says at our Chrism Mass, he said, before speaking specifically about the role of the mission, I would like to paint an image of the mission on the canvas of what it means to be a missionary. After all, if the mission is to make disciples, the disciples themselves need a vision of who they're called to be before they can be clear on what they're called to do. What does it mean to be a disciple? Or, as Pope Francis writes, what does it mean to be a missionary disciple? Before we talk about what we're doing, let's talk about who we're called to be. Now, you don't have to read all those documents, okay? And you probably can't see this. Just trust me. 1964, in the Second Vatican Council, the church in the modern world essentially said, when it comes to evangelization, two things. We're all called to holiness, and we're all to cooperate with God's will in our life. Shortly after that, Pope Paul VI wrote a document on evangelization. In that, he outlined several things in that document, which are a blueprint not only for the U.S. Bishop's document on evangelization, Go and Make Disciples, but significantly in a document by John Paul II and Pope Francis. And he talks about having a life-changing encounter, surrendering to God's will, the emphasis on conversion, learning about the church, being a witness, challenging structures in governments and things like that are unjust, and sharing the good news with other people. That's picked up by John Paul II as he looks at the millennium, and he talks about the mission of the Redeemer. He also talks about surrendering to God's life and the spirituality of being a missionary, in intimate communion with Christ, loving the church, and desiring to be a saint. The U.S. bishops, including our own Bishop Jacobs, the U.S. bishops wrote a document called Go and Make Disciples, where they outline a lot of the common themes that you're starting to see here. What does it mean to be a disciple? One who's encountered the person of Jesus Christ, experienced conversion, coming out of ourselves, big challenge for Americans, challenging the structures that are unjust, and going and sharing the good news. And finally, Pope Francis, Enjoy the Gospel, talks also about the encounter with Jesus Christ, conversion, coming out of ourselves, challenging the structures, of course, seeing others, seeing the poor, and sharing the good news. Here's the themes that we see there, so that we're just listening to church. We're listening to God. What does God want His disciples to look like? There are some themes. As you put all these documents together that help us appreciate what is it that we're supposed to be doing. How is it that we help people? That 7% in some way are probably doing this. And there's another 7% on top of them who are going to come to us asking us for help to do this. So what do we see? A summary. What does it mean to be a missionary disciple? That's what we want to pray about in a couple seconds, but I want to present to you something that we can at least start our prayer around. Number one, the church seems to write extensively about having a personal encounter with Jesus Christ, which can happen in 1,000 different ways. But the first thing Jesus did is He said, Peter, come and see me. When I get to know the person of Jesus Christ, I want Him to shape my lifestyle. That's what conversion is. Conversion is a response to a person, as the Gospels allow us and the church paints a picture for us. Therefore, I no longer live in a me-centered world. Now, this doesn't all happen cleanly, but you can notice that there's a progression, isn't there? There's movement. There's movement from meeting the person of Jesus Christ to responding to the person of Jesus Christ, to giving Him access in my life. That's what the documents say. That's what the Holy Father talks about. However, it's got to be grounded in the teachings of the church. My subjective experience of God is not enough. It's got to be grounded, or it too will atrophy. That's what the documents say. They talk a lot about docility to the Spirit or surrender to God's will, which unpacked means I live a life of discernment. Discernment is no longer about whether I should get a new job or buy a new house or have another kid. Discernment is a daily exercise in a mature or missionary disciple. I want to do what God wants me to do. I want to live in a relationship and communion with God. Let me give you an example that I often use. What's a missionary disciple? You see this chair? This chair is God. A missionary disciple is someone who has met Him and who at some point of his life noticed what it was like to live here. A mature missionary disciple doesn't want to do this. A mature missionary disciple doesn't want to check in on Sunday and live like an American Monday through Saturday. A mature disciple understands what communion with God looks like and desires to discern what pulls me out the chair. What do I need to start saying no to? The mature disciple understands that no is sometimes answer for the yes. The mature disciple wants to live in communion with God and begins to discern things so that I grow in my spiritual life, which means I'm committed to holiness. And I live in community. I need people to help me. That parish now becomes that crazy place where other crazy people are chasing Jesus just like me. The parish becomes a place where I can connect with people who want to help me stay in communion with God. And God loves people, so I love His people. God loves the poor, so I don't respond to the poor because it made me feel guilty. I respond to the poor because He made them. He's in them. He loves them. And what He loves, I begin to love. And who He loves, I begin to love. And finally, I want other people to know about Him. A missionary disciple's on a plane. and somebody next to me on the plane says, hey, you know Jesus Christ? And I no longer look at, that's an evangelistic conversation. Sorry, I'm Catholic. Go find a Protestant. The missionary disciple says, Jesus? What? What do you want to know? Save my life. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Father Mark, a little extreme, kind of crazy. What's the other option? Blend in? That's working? Our approach to helping people blend in is yielding 7% maximally engaged Catholics. Our approach to blending in, shying away from what he wants us to do is obedience to him. I love the apostles. I love Peter and Matthew. You know who my favorite apostle is? The one who called Simon the Zealot. Imagine if when people heard a Homo Thibodeau, they said, those are the zealots. Instead of saying, man, you got to see those crawfish on Good Friday. The day that brother died, we gave him permission just to blend in. Imagine what that church would look like. Imagine what that parish would look like. Imagine if all of this right here that the church is asking us to draw people into, imagine if our formation of adults in our parishes was helping adults move through the stages of spiritual maturity. Imagine what that would look like. Imagine if this is what CCD looked like. Imagine if that's what happened with our teens. We were helping them progress through spiritual maturity. Imagine if our parishes were helping us do that. Now, we need a lot for our parishes to do that. We don't just need us in this room. This is not going to happen magically. It's going to have a lot of hard work. How we do that in Chacahula is going to look very different in Thibodaux. How we do it in Bayou de Large or Chauvin is going to look different in Thibodaux. But we're here tonight. I'm hoping you're here because you want to be part of a solution to help us listen to the Lord so that we can help people here. And we're going to need a lot here. We're here tonight and with these 3 commissions, but that's not the only thing we're doing in this thing called strategic planning. We've also kicked off some conversation with the priests as well as diocesan governance, the way that the pastoral center, imagine the pastoral center being a place where everything that we did here, we're helping parishes thrive and forming missionary disciples. Imagine if we no longer had to beg people for money. Imagine if people were so convicted and convinced that the mission of forming disciples was what Jesus wanted, that they wanted to help fund some things that we wanted to do. A missionary disciple refers to what has happened to me. So what we're going to do this spring as we're all together in these commissions is we're going to research and make some recommendations. Those of you who came for the parish commission, we're going to have an opportunity, the possibility of getting together, and in the spring, we're going to do some research about parish life. What does a healthy parish look like? Let's go find some. We've got some here in our diocese, outside the diocese. Let's go find them across the world. Same thing in youth ministry, same thing in formation. In August, the priests are going to get together. They're going to have a chance to listen to all the recommendations. All right, so we want to bring them into it, but we know that they can't be a part of all of it, so we're going to bring all those recommendations to the priests, let them tussle with it and say, hey, we like that, or can you massage that? After we do that, we'll get together in the fall. We'll get real practical. We'll put some things on paper, but what we can concretely do together. In February, we'll get together again as the priests so that all those practical things that can happen in parishes, they get to put their stamp of approval on, and in March we'll present it to the parishes. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but what this is something for us to start with tonight. And the church, in her wisdom, since the last 60 years, has presented to us that we need to allow something to happen to us, and then, of course, we need to live, and that's what the bottom half that's all about. What I'd like us to do right now, if we can, is to take a good bit of silence right now. After we do that, we'll have some conversation at our tables. I just want you to behold this. I want us to ask God to speak to us right now. As we together press our ears onto the Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ, what does He want to say back to us tonight? What do we have right? What do we have off? But what are we hearing? Just take a couple seconds right now. You can close your eyes if you want to close your eyes. You can keep your eyes glued up here. You want to look at the cross. But I want us to listen to what God's putting on your heart as you look at perhaps an image of what a disciple looks like, what He wants our energies to help people experience, what we want our parishioners to look like, to experience in their lives. Take a couple seconds in silence and just ask the Lord to speak to you.